The date is the 9th of October 3308, and we have a week of Galnet stories to cover. First off, on the 26th of September 3308, we have the federal crackdown on Thargoid worshippers. The federal government has declared the Order of the Thargoid to be a potential enemy of the state. The following press statement was delivered from the White House on Mars. The Federal Navy Intelligence Office has uncovered sufficient cause for concern to suspect the Thargoid cult of treason. They are believed to be responsible for leaking classified audio-visual data from the HIP 22460 system while sharing other sensitive Thargoid-related material internally. Due to this, the risk that they will frustrate any anti-Xeno operations in the future is deemed considerable. President Hudson has therefore ordered military units to take control of all Hive chapels in the federal systems. Their inhabitants will be placed in detention facilities and subject to questioning. In related news, the Secretary of State, Alana Berkovich, has responded with a solution petition Congress to make the Order of the Thargoid illegal. She has cited constitutional amendments that prevent citizens from providing aid and comfort to an enemy of the state. The civil rights organization Advocacy, the Galactic Interfaith Commune, and the Spiritual Freedom Movement have all condemned these actions. However, political opinion polls suggest that a majority of voters are in favor of banning the Thargoid cult in the Federation space. Shadow President Felicia Winters has issued the following response. I understand there are concerns regarding a Thargoid-based religious order, especially at this time, but these must be concrete and there must be evidence supporting the allegations before we treat our citizens as enemies. It seems to me that Hudson's administration is desperate to appear tough on the Thargoids after the debacle in the HIP 22460 system, and they have found an easy scapegoat to generate popular support. The following story is Tesreau announces bid to reform Aegis. On the 28th of September 3308, a media forum has been arranged that will officially propose reinstating the Tri-Superpower Anti-Xeno Agency. The event is being organised by Professor Alba Tesreau, former head of research of Aegis. She's delivered a statement to all news feeds in the galaxy. As the war against the Thargoids intensifies, the need for centralised xenological research is more vital than ever. This press conference will put forward a case to convince leaders in the Alliance, Empire, and Federation to review the decision to dismantle Aegis. The Bowman report highlighted many of Aegis's limitations, and we do not intend to ignore them. Improvements for several departments would have to be made, but the affiliated counterterrorism unit proved that cross-superpower collaboration can be efficient, flexible, and effective. Aegis could be restructured along similar lines to prevent repeating its past mistakes. Invitations to the conference have been sent to key political figures, including Allied Deputy Prime Minister Angela Corcoran, Federal Ambassador Jasmine Halsey, and no members of Congress have yet responded publicly. The Imperial Senate acknowledged Professor Tesreau, but formally stated that the Empire has no interest in further cooperations with any other superpowers at this time. The 3-day forum is scheduled to begin on Monday, 3rd of October in the Apollo City on the planet Biggs Colony. And on the 29th of September, we had 2 Galnet stories. One was the delivery campaign to help fund the Imperial charity, which was to deliver rare goods and fish into the station for a paint job. That is not really news and probably shouldn't be in there. The main story for the day was the Federal forces target the True Chapters. Conflict has erupted in Popontia as the Federation seeks to apprehend the True Chapter cultists of the Thargoid cult. The Work of the Free, which is a sympathetic sect, has the right to practice its religion. It was outfitting the Dedicant megaship for the chapter's use. Federal ships have been deployed in the system with the intention of detaining all cultists and seizing the megaship. Governor Nadia Machado, representing Popontia Incorporated, declared, by order of President Hudson, all Thargoid worshippers are under suspicion of espionage and aiding and abetting our alien enemies. The True Chapters group is ordered to surrender for lawful questioning. Popontia Incorporated has been tasked with overseeing this mission. Payment has been authorized for federal auxiliaries and independent pilots willing to pledge their support in subduing the True Chapter supporters. From the Testament megaship, the first apostle of the True Chapters delivered a broadcast across all public channels. The Dedicant will be a new home for us to await the Thargoid's arrival. We are prepared to die to defend this holy calling. Our recognized patrons in the Workers of Popontia Free will fight to protect us and reward those who aid our cause. These unprecedented hostilities were commented on by Alfred Ulanov, an academic authority on the Order of the Thargoid. This is the first time that members of this fate have not calmly accepted their own fate. According to my research, the first apostle preaches that the Fire God will transform her followers upon its manifestation, allowing them to survive while the rest of humanity is extinguished. This has evidently motivated the True Chapter adherents to abandon their wholly passive stance. Both campaigns are being orchestrated by contacts in the system's primary starport, Ryan Market. And on the 30th of September 3308, we have two Galnet stories. The first one is Militaries prepare for further Thargoid strikes. The prospect of more systems being invaded by Thargoids has placed the Alliance, Empire, and Federation on high alert. Ernesto Rios, field correspondent for Vox Galactica, summarized the situation. Following the Battle of HIP 22460, there was anticipation that the Thargoids would expand into neighboring systems. Swarms of hostile vessels did indeed arrive in 42N Persei, Chunpindit, and the Tekijal system. Although, in a notable change to their former tactics, no starports suffered a direct attack. The Federal Navy responded by deploying its Farragut-class battlecruisers, and President Zachary Hudson proclaimed that these successfully drove out the invaders. But many observers suspect the Thargoids withdrew from the fight when the fighting was fierce. In the Empire, Senator Denton Petrius considered these events an indication that Thargoids are probing humanity's defensive capabilities. But details of the Imperial Navy anti-Xeno strategy remain confidential, a sign the Empire will shift away from its military coordination with the other superpowers. The Alliance has claimed to be in a position of readiness, with Admiral Nicholas Glass reporting, Operation Tyndareus, backed by a Sirius Corporation, is now active. The Alliance Defense Force is ready to deploy anti-Xeno task forces should the Thargoids dare to launch an assault within any Allied space. Meanwhile, critics of the Strategic Defense Pact have observed that only 2 megaships currently possess any AX weapons, casting doubt over the ADF's effectiveness. Elsewhere, many independent systems are doing whatever they can to bolster their local forces. Too many worlds are acutely aware that should Thargoid fleets darken their skies, they would be forced to rely upon mercenaries and independent pilots for protection. Popular opinion on continued military action against the Thargoid vessels remains favourable, but the Xeno peace discussion continues to grow. In the Ibeco system, leading ICE personality Joy Cian has released a beacon drop package in an effort to promote the idea of peace to independent pilots. Ships that scan the beacon will receive a free Xeno affirmative ship nameplate and decal paid for by Sen, along with clips of a recent discussion with Sovereign Times anchor Herman Borochev about the so-called Thargoid Advocacy Project. Also on the 30th, we had the FSS upgrade to track the anomalous signals. The full-spectrum system scanners are being updated with the aim of discovering the nature of the interstellar anomalies. Cynthia Sideris, chairperson of Universal Cartographics, gave this statement to the press. The scientific community remains fascinated by the phenomenon that we have classified as rogue signal sources. At present, we can calculate their approximate direction and velocity, but otherwise they remain a mystery. We have therefore worked with several corporations to enhance the ability of our ships to analyze the signals. Engineers from Orgavision, Jik Naxon Enterprises, Long Embedded Systems, LERP Ship Systems, and other specialist companies collaborated to improve the long-range detection capabilities of the FFS scanners. Their collaborative efforts provided a firmware update that is designed to isolate these unique electromagnetic emissions. By agreement with every ship manufacturer, Universal Cartographics has rolled out this free update to all scanners. Our hope is that with more pilots targeting the rogue signal sources, we can triangulate their positions more accurately and perhaps determine their composition. The object continues to travel at faster than light speeds between distant systems, defying all attempts to intercept them. Their appearance does not match any naturally occurring stellar body known to science. On the 3rd of October, we have the Making the Case for Aegis story. A 3-day symposium has begun that will outline proposals to reform Aegis, the tri-superpower anti-Xeno agency. The event is taking place at the Natural Conference Center in New Apollo City on the planet Biggs Colony. It has been organized by Professor Alba Tesreau, Aegis's former head of research. In her opening address to the attendees, she said, "In the aftermath of HIP 22460's failure to end the war, humanity remains locked in this fight against the Thargoids. I believe that we have become hyper-focused on military action, meaning we may never truly understand this species. Aegis's collaborative nature was ideally suited for such work, but internal and external pressures resulted in its closure. I am officially declaring my aim to convince the Alliance, Empire, and Federation to reverse the closure." Detailed plans to reform the organizations were presented by other former members of Aegis, including Carter Armstrong, Dr. Maya Valancourt, and Ya Xing. Several issues highlighted by the Bowman report indicate mismanagement and low morale was openly addressed. The audience was shown evidence that the loss of the Alexandra megaship, originally seen as an example of Aegis's neglect, was due to sabotage and hijacking by Azimuth biotech agents. The hosts were also asked about Xenopeace movement and the popular audio package released last week by Icecaster Joy Sen. And Professor Tesreau stated, "Neither I nor any former Aegis staff was involved in the Thargoid advocacy project or any similar group, but I have always believed that researching methods of interspecies communication should be a priority." A combination of politicians, scientists, naval officers, and journalists were present on the first day of the event. The most high-profile guests included Allied Deputy Prime Minister Angela Corcoran, Federal Ambassador Jasmine Halsey, and Shadow Vice President Isolde Rochester. There were no representatives from the Empire, but a delegation from the Marlinus colonies has observed these proceedings. On October the 4th, we had the story Gatecrash Drama at Aegis event. The sole survivor of the notorious Project Seraph experiments has reportedly appeared at the Aegis Symposium, startling the live audience. Vox Galactica journalist Alan Mantle published an on-the-scene report. The shouting caught everyone in the conference hall by surprise, interrupting a discussion about recently leaked Thargoid raw heard at HIP 22460. We all watched in amazement as a small figure in disheveled clothing slipped past security and fought her way on stage, disarming several guards who sought to intervene. Many ran fearing an attack, but Professor Alba Tesreau stood her ground. The bedraggled woman yelled hoarsely that her name was Seo Jinei, adding "You know me" to Tesreau herself. When the intruder yanked up her sleeve as if to show something, I deployed my drone camera, which clearly captured the symbol D-2 ink branded on her forearm. She then grabbed Professor Tesreau and said, "I don't know where else to go. I know." She gestured at the screens where audio analysis of the HIP 22460 Thargoid sound was displayed. "I know what this means, and it's too late to stop what's coming." Tesreau immediately ordered security to stand down. She called several former members of Aegis to help, and together they escorted the woman off stage. Within minutes came the announcement that the symposium's primary presentation was cancelled, and with secondary talks to be moved onto the main stage. Subject D2 first came to light when the abandoned settlement Oaken Point was discovered in HIP 26176 system. Its log described Project Seraph's attempts to create human pilots for Thargoid vessels, from which D2 escaped by stowing away on a courier ship. In June, D2 contacted Professor Tesreau to expose an Inara base in the DG Canum Venticorium system, which revealed Salvation's identity as Dr. Caleb Wycherley of then Azimuth Biotech Chemicals. On the 6th of October, we had two stories. We have the defeat of the True Chapters, sadly. Not a huge news story, but the True Chapter CG was a failure. People were able to fight against it. The other story is Operation Tyndareus reacts to the Thargoid fleets. The Alliance has deployed a reactionary task force to defend the anti-KV system from Thargoids. An anti-Xeno task force titled Operation Tyndareus was recently prepared by the Alliance Defense Force in conjunction with the Sirius Corporation. This followed the ratification of the Strategic Defense Pact between the superpower and the Megacorp. Admiral Nicholas Glass, the Sirius Navy representative on the Council of Admirals, announced, "The Thargoids have encroached upon Allied territory, providing an opportunity for Operation Tyndareus to put this newly legislated partnership to the test. The megaships provided by Sirius Corporation are on combat readiness for just such an event, and Kumio Sky has jumped directly to the anti-KV system to act as a mobile base of operations. The ADF will spearhead our counterattack against the alien forces. These are still early days for our unified anti-Xeno efforts, so we are requesting additional support from independent pilots, and the Sirius Corporation will award its pre-engineered heatsink module to those who destroy adequate numbers of vessels. The anti-KV system reported the presence of Thargoids over the past 48 hours, however, as with recent incursions into populated systems, they have not attacked any starports. Sirius Corporation will reimburse Thargoid combat bonds delivered to the Kumiko Sky over the next 7 days. And on the 7th of October we had Azimuth, we can help D2. Azimuth Biotech has publicly offered assistance to the subject D2, the Project Seraph survivor who gatecrashed the recent Aegis Symposium. The woman, now identified as Seo Jinei, unexpectedly arrived at the event on Tuesday, and she claimed to possess knowledge of the Thargoid roar that was heard at 22460 following the Proteus Wave's activation. There is speculation that this relates to her inclusion in experiments to create Thargoid pilots for Thargoid vessels. human pilots. Professor Albert Tesreau has since issued a brief statement. Along with other former members of Aegis, I have provided sanctuary to CO Jine. She is currently receiving medical treatment at a private facility, and Miss CO's safety and welfare is now my responsibility. Torben Raidmaker, CEO of Azimuth Biotech, has made the following declaration on public channels. We extend our heartfelt sympathies to the individual known as D-2 and would like to extend an offer of assistance. This tragically mistreated individual will receive little help from a random assortment of ex-Aegis personnel. With our decades of research and xenological specialists, Azimuth Biotech is far better suited to assess both her physical and mental state. Her well-being will be our main concern, of course, but the possibility that D2 can somehow interpret the Thargoid communications should not be dismissed. We can help her to explore this ability, which may grant important insights into the species. I must also clarify that Project Seraph facilities in 22460 and 26176 were under Salvation's direct control and were kept hidden from the whole corporation. The discovery of these sites was as much a shock to me as anybody else. It is a matter of personal regret that Azimuth's long history includes examples of such misguided operations. We are eager to make amends for Salvation's mistakes. And that's the news from the Galnet as it stands today.